Continuing on with our study of fractions, we're really at the most complex point at the pretty much at the end. I mean, your fractions knowledge needs to extend into algebra, which adds complexity to it eventually. But for the time being, when we're really just breaking down fractions in and of themselves, this is about as complex as it can get, because we know and the beautiful thing about math is the procedure never changes. The procedures, the algorithms are consistent and true all the time. No matter how complex or difficult the numbers get, we have bigger numbers here. So there are going to be parts of it that take us a little bit longer. Procedurally, though, nothing changed. We know by now that when we divide two fractions, we actually multiply by the reciprocal of the second. This is just something you have to remember. It's the reciprocal of the second, not the first. So you flip or invert the second fraction. There's a nice proof for this that hopefully you'll get to eventually that shows why this works out well, and you'll need when you get to algebra. Actually, we're going to skip that for now because it's a little bit down the road. For now, you have to remember it's discipline. You flip the second, you invert the second fraction. And there's a little trick called copy.flip, which works great. I don't use it because I think you need to be familiar with the terms reciprocal, and you just need to understand the discipline within to become disciplined within procedures and structure of them in a math problem. So now, obviously, the big issue now is we got to multiply big numbers because the rest of it's easy. 5 times 16, so we may have to come over here to the side and multiply 16 times 5 and find out that it's 80. And then 12 times 13, most likely definitely have to come to the side and multiply that out and get, this one's a big one, 166. So 166 is the numerator. And I'm going to go ahead and erase this work because we may need that space in a minute. Again, when you get work like this in math, use lots of space, write big if you're a sloppy writer like me. It's a way to eliminate errors because you just have to go through all those details to get the right answer. It's just the way it is. There's no shortcut for it unless your teacher lets you use a calculator. But probably not right away. And we can see in this one that we're going to have to get the final form, it needs to be simplified because 80 and 166 are both even numbers, so it can definitely be simplified. I'm going to go ahead and do that just for extra practice here, just so you can see again. And since they're large numbers, the simplification approach I'm going to use is just starting to hack away with something I know. Like I know that they're both divisible by 2, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump into that. And I'm going to whittle down from there. So 80 divided by 2 is 40, and I might have to do that over to the side. 166 divided by 2, let's go ahead and do that at the side. Not that bad. So 40 over 84. 40 over 83 is my answer there. And I believe, unless I'm mistaken, I have it in simplest form. Nothing comes to my mind that will divide into both 40 and 83. So I believe we got a simple form there. If I'm wrong, send me an email. I'll give you a candy bar and I'll remake this video. So that's the whole thing. We're done with that one. Let's go on and do another example. If you know what you're doing and I am boring you, please don't allow that to happen. Jump to the practice set and get into it. If you would like to see some more problems demonstrated, stay with me. Or maybe you just like to listen to the soothing sound of my voice. Stay with me and we'll finish this problem. So, dividing two fractions, again, big numbers, so it's probably going to be kind of nasty. But we know the procedure, tried and true in mathematics, always the same. Multiply the reciprocal of the second fraction. So we invert it, we flip it upside down, but always the second. Common mistake is people flip the first, which is why the copy.flip, copy dot, which probably should represent multiplication as a dot, and flip the second one helps students remember that. So use it if you need to, but try to remember this is the reciprocal, and now the rest of it's easy. 6 times 17, it's just going to take us a little bit of time because I don't know that one off the top of my head. I don't know about you. 6 times 7 is 42. 102 over 12 times 7 is 84. So I'm close to a finished product here. We have the result, the product, or the quotient, rather, of that pair of fractions. It's 102 over 84, but I know, because my eye is trained by now, that that can be reduced. 102 divided by 84, they're both even, so I know they'll both divide by 2. I'm going to take a chance here, because this one will divide by 4. I just know. Maybe this one will too, so let's try it real quick. 102 divided by 4 is, times 2 is 8. It won't. So let's start with, I took a chance. You saw me do it. You see that this is work for me too. It requires some thinking. So I'm just going to go back and divide by 2 first and see if I can break it down further than that. So 102 divided by 2 is 51. And 84 divided by 2 is 42. You may have to come over to the side and do those. If you do, you do. 2 goes into 10 5 times. So 51. But maybe you can figure it out in your head. The best thing is to come over and make sure you have it right, not to do it in your head. I'm just trying to keep these videos a little bit shorter, so that's not good modeling on my part. You really should always work it out just to be sure. So I think we have a final answer here, 51 divided by 42, but let's check it over. Now I remember a rule of divisibility for 3, which is if the sum of these, 6, 5 plus 1 is 6, is divisible by 3, then the whole thing's divisible by 3. And if the sum of these, 4 plus 2 is 6, is divisible by 3, which it is, then both of these then are also divisible by 3. So I can take it another step here. So these I'm going to have to do on the side, because I don't think I know them off the top of my head. 51 divided by 3. 3 goes into 21 7 times. So 17. And 42 divided by 3. See how sloppy my writing is, which is why I have to write big. 3 goes into 12 4 times, and I know that's a 0. So 17 over 14. Now I do have a fraction in simplest form. I could still create a mixed number out of that if my teacher requires it. Hopefully you remember that process, but we're going to stop here. So we're pretty much out of room in the video. Your teacher may say the simplified form is also a mixed number. You can't have improper fractions, and if so, there's another step. Your teacher may say, I'm okay with improper fractions today, but they still need to be in simplest form, meaning that I need to break these down as much as I can. That's all direction that your teacher will give you. Anyway, so as you can see, a little bit time consuming. These problems take a little bit longer. Remember, in math, length of time doesn't mean they're hard. That's why we write it down on paper. That helps us keep track of where we're at, which decreases the difficulty for us. It's just going to take a little bit of time to work it out, so it takes some perseverance. Yeah, you might get tired, eat a candy bar and jump back into it and finish. Now go get some practice done.